Okay,
So we
we're
are
on.
live, yes, here with Simon today. Hi, Simon. Thank you
Hey,
for
what's up?
being here.
My pleasure.
Um,
Thanks for inviting me.
my pleasure. We're going to dive right in. If you could please just introduce yourself and tell everyone what it is that you do.
Well, my name is Simon Stegelmeier, and I just put my handle in here, True Story Simon, on all the social networks. So if anybody wants to just check that out, I'm based in Germany, but I grew up in Canada and the United States. That's probably why people might think, okay, he doesn't have an accent, whatever. Yeah, it's because I grew up in the Canada and the United States. Um, but then moved back to Germany, and yeah, so did an apprenticeship, studied in the Netherlands, went to university in the Netherlands, spent some time abroad also during my studies in Korea. And I was always very business focused, and I'm currently a independent consultant and coach, leadership coach for specifically data strategy and agile leadership. Right. So I don't know if agile is something that people know about. So maybe I'll just
Go for
say
it.
really quick what that is. So agile methods is something that comes out of the area of software development, right? And there's a few different methods that are used. For instance, Scrum is one of the agile methods. It's an agile framework. I'm also a Scrum master, and a lot of software product development projects in this space, or app development projects, are developed in the Scrum fashion, because it just lends itself to, just a very dynamic development, and also to a very changing landscape as we're in. It's a project management method, um, uh, mainly in the data and IT field, and that's kind of my professional focus. But since we're here on the Self-Healing Consultant live, you've asked me to come on to tell my story, and I haven't always been internationally booked consultant. I did have some uh, trials and tribulations in my life before I got to the point where I am now. So uh, when I was 20 years old, I just started basically first year of my apprenticeship. So in Germany, it's quite common to do an apprenticeship where you go into a company and you basically have internships with different departments there. And then you also have school phases where you go to a vocational school, which is a quite unique to Germany, right? So I was doing this apprenticeship, right? And in the my first summer vacation, I went to uh, we were planning to go kite surfing, me and my friends, and um, so we were on our way, bags packed, all the equipment in the back of the Jeep, and then boom, my friend crashed the Jeep into the back of a truck. It was one of those situations where traffic just rapidly stops. I don't know if you've ever been in one of those situations on the motorway where the traffic just rapidly stops. Uh, and So basically, uh, at full speed, he slammed the Jeep into a truck, and the Jeep caught fire immediately. My friend was stuck between the steering wheel and the driver's seat, and was stuck in the car, couldn't be rescued. My friend, who was sitting on the passenger seat of the car, was pulled out of the car. I was pulled out of the car. There was luckily two soldiers that were there in the just who saw what happened. They stopped. They got out. They rescued us. And my injuries were so bad, I had to be flown with a rescue helicopter, to a special clinic where they even had all the doctors that I needed, right? And um, so, I mean, as you can maybe tell, I lost vision, my right eye. I have scars and burns all over my body, um, and arms, hands broken. Had almost all my teeth knocked out, um, and my lungs were crushed. hip dislocated. So like pretty much every bone in my body that you can imagine was broken. And it's quite a miracle that I actually survived. And this happened in a phase of my life where I was just starting out my life. I mean, 20 years old, right? I just started, building a career, getting my education, feeling good about myself because I was getting so many opportunities. I was about to go to Hong Kong after vacation. I would have gone to Hong Kong because I was kind of like a shooting star there in the apprenticeship due to my international background. I was given a lot of opportunities to also go abroad during my apprenticeship and work for the company abroad, which was I was basically living my life on the fast lane, right? And then the crash happened, and about 2.5, almost 3 weeks later, I woke up from a coma, and they told me all this. Simon, you had a really bad accident. David died in the crash, and Mo is in a different hospital. You had to be flown into a special clinic, and you're here on in a bed in the intensive care unit, right? And I was um, that was a
Wow.
lot to handle at 20 years old, right? That was a lot to handle, and I basically woke up. I was basically reborn into a new reality. My life had completely changed, right? It just wasn't the same anymore. My life was completely different than uh, than I knew it. Like it wasn't my life anymore. And so I was in the intensive care unit. I was laying on my back all day, right? And the first time they actually just with assistance made me sit upright. I was seeing stars everywhere because I was laying in bed for over a month already at that point in an ICU bed. They lifted me up. I'm seeing stars, all the machines buzzing around me. Then I got an infection in the when I was still in the intensive care unit, and then I was freaking out. This is a story I haven't even told very many people, but I was freaking out, and my heart was pounding, and the machines were going off behind me, and I asked the nurse to put her hands on my chest because I thought that my heart was gonna pop out of my chest. So I was like so panicking, right? And I asked her to please, nurse, put your hands on my chest, please, please. And I looked at her and I said, nurse, I don't want to die. She said, Simon, everybody's got to die one day. That's what she said to me in an ICU bed when I was having a panic attack, right? Like, and so all these experiences, I made other terrible experiences, right? Still, like after, and it was just so much. First of all, physical pain. Second, emotional pain. Um, that was just all coming at me at like almost at the same time, right? Everything was hitting me so hard um, that I at first didn't really even know how to process everything, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of where um, that's kind of where like the whole story starts. Basically, of my self healing journey starts there, right? Because no matter how many people are around you in such a situation, you're still the one laying in the bed, and you're still the one who has to deal with it, right? So, and nobody can do that for you. Um, and then came the day where I was first time, like I left the intensive care unit. I got into a normal hospital bed, and then came the day when I was wheeled into the bathroom, and I saw my face for the first time after the accident, right? And like you see, like how I looked, I mean, it's how I look. It's what happened to me. That was a struggle in itself to get used to that. I was running around with an eye patch for the longest time. I became super self-conscious, which is also something I had to struggle with. Um, but I saw myself in the mirror for the first time, and instantly I started screaming. Tears were like streaming down my face. And it was so scary because I didn't recognize the person that I was seeing in the mirror, right? Because when you see yourself in the mirror every single day, you get used to yourself, right? You know what you look like.
Yeah.
And then when you see yourself and your optics has completely changed, it's like it feels like you've lost your identity, right? So for me, it was really about this whole journey of self-healing was to a great extent also about finding, or not finding, I don't like this like finding myself. I don't like this term. I for some reason, because I think it's personally, I think it's bullshit. Um, but I thought, like, I thought I lost my identity, you see? And I had to learn that my identity has nothing to do with what I look like. And that was a long process, right? Because your character, right, the person you are, the person you want to be, is determined by the choices you make. And that's what I learned. There's things that happen in life, but in between what happens and how you respond to it is freedom. And that's the last freedom you have, the last human freedom you have. When you can't control what's going on, when you can't control your circumstances, the last human freedom you have is your choice how to respond to the circumstances, right? And my brother was in China at the time, also super international guy. He's living in China, right? And but this was in 2008, back in 2008. And he was going in. He was over in China for his first internship over there at the time. He came back, and he was supposed to go back even to China, and to like live there for an extended period of time. And he came into the ICU and asked me if he should go to China. And I told him, of course you have to go to China because I want to visit you there, right? And I was still in the ICU bed, right? With my like, my wired shut jaw had just been opened up again. I could just, tell him, I could just talk again. And he asked me, uh, can I go to China? I was like, of course you have to go to China because I want to visit you there. 1 year later, even though the doctor said to my mom, your son will need one year around the clock care, 24-hour care for at least 1 year. 1 year later, I was standing on the Great Wall of China with my brother in China.
Amazing.
And my brother, he also brought with him to the hospital a gift, one of those scrolls with the calligraphy on it, and that's kind of been like my mantra, if you will, for this whole for my life. It's become a life mantra. This Asian proverb or Chinese proverb, which says, "A man makes his way. There's no way that can make a man." Which speaks to the idea that you decide what happens to you. You decide what way you make. It's not the things that happen to you that define who you are. It's how it's your decisions and your decision how to react, how to respond to who you are. You choose your response. Now, it sounds super tough and super boss and super easy when I'm sitting with you right here, in my office right here with my with everything you can imagine. I have a super happy life. I'm a father, a husband, successful career, right? Sounds super easy right now, but it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. And that's kind of in a nutshell the story. I mean, I feel like I've been talking now for a good 10 minutes, 10,
No,
15
no,
minutes.
it's all
But
good.
yeah,
But
but that's kind of
wow,
what I had to overcome. Yeah.
wow, Simon, that is one hell of a story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. I think it was Viktor Frankl that said that
Exactly.
in between stimulus and response is the magic. That's where the magic happens.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly that's Viktor Frankl. So this is how weird life is. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I was in the apprenticeship. I mentioned that, right? And from my first mentor in the apprenticeship, right? Like the first department I was in the apprenticeship pardon me. I always my words always like they. um, my first mentor, he gave me a book after finishing the first internship phase by Stephen Covey. I don't know if you've read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Okay, I've heard of it.
Heard of it? So that was like that was like the first like personal development books I've ever read.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a gift from my first mentor in the apprenticeship, and I read it, and I really enjoyed it because there's some really good concepts in there. And in that book, he tells the story of Viktor Frankl,
Mm-hmm.
of how he consciously made this, and that's a technique that I actually used that got me through sometimes the really really dark phases, because he talks about when he was being tortured by the Nazis. He talks about how when they would do this degrading stuff to him, that he would just project his mind to the corner of the room and realize that this is not happening to him. This is happening to his body, right? And that they can't take his freedom because he has the freedom to choose how he responds. So it's Viktor Frankl, exactly right. And this technique of projecting my mind's eye into the corner of the room and looking onto my circumstances was something that I used very, very extensively in the hospital, because there was always these times where you get really, really sad when all this overwhelming stuff happens around you, and then some bullshit happened in the hospital too that I don't really like to talk about, but just some really a lot of bad stuff was just going on, and all the stuff that had happened. Lost a friend, lost my life almost, yeah, and lost the life that I knew, at least, because there, when something like this happens, it's always like your life gets cut into before and after. So it was really tough. And then I would always have this technique where I would ask to, please, can you just remove all the pillows from my bed? And I would just have the bed straight, and I would just lay flat on my back, and it was kind of like a meditation where I would think of this Viktor Frankl technique of just projecting myself into the corner of the room and looking onto my circumstance. I would just keep telling myself, this is happening to your body. This is not happening to your mind. Your mind is still working. Your heart is still beating. And all of this, what has happened, is not happening to your mind. So it's a conscious choice you need to make, no matter how difficult, whatever happens to you, no matter how difficult or bad it is, and some really bad stuff can happen. I mean, this, right? And but that doesn't define who you are. The bad stuff that happens to you doesn't define who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You still get to choose how you respond to the stuff. And there's always, and it's really binary, it's positive or negative, right? Because if you decide to take a negative response to it, it's going to be an exponential negative experience from that point forward, right? But if you choose to have a positive experience, it's going to be very, 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 very difficult, very, very hard. It wasn't easy. It's still, sometimes I still struggle with this. I still struggle, but it's worth it to choose to choose to have a positive outlook, to choose to deal with things in a positive way. It's not easy. It's definitely not easy. Giving up is always easy, but fighting is always going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it. going to be worth it. And
100%. I really do. I understand everything that you're saying. First of all, I just want to thank you for sharing. Okay, like before we continue, thank you for sharing that with us. I really do wonder. It just makes me wonder because a lot of people get stuck in the negative, and then they is it just a matter, do you think, of them not realizing that they can choose or not believing that they have a choice? Because they're, and this is just me asking your opinion, right? Because like I really do, I really struggle sometimes to try and find a way to kind of explain that there is this choice, and because I think people get stuck with this is happening to me, and they get stuck in the victim mindset, in the how to like I don't know. It sounded like for you it was from the get-go, you woke up and you had this happen to you and you just had that like tool in your head already, like this is a choice I have to make now. Like I can make a choice. You knew that you could make a choice. I don't know.
That's what I didn't close the loop fully when I was talking about the book.
Mhm.
That's my problem. See, I'm doing it again. I'm giving too much detail. Um, but how crazy is it that I got this book and I read it? I started reading it and I was like, whoa, this is some really good stuff. And usually I don't read, or back then I didn't read that much. Like it was like. It's only like when a book really captivates me that I read this book so fast you can't imagine, because I ate it up. How crazy is it that before all this happened, I got this book that had the story of Viktor Frankl in it, where I learned this technique that I ended up using to get me through some dark times. You know what I mean? How crazy
Mhm.
is that? First of all. Second of all, I think that what so this is all reflection that I had in hindsight, right? And I think people need to realize they are way stronger than they think they are.
Yeah.
That's something. um, with me, it's I believe we all have a soul, right? We all have a soul, and I do believe in God. I'm not religious, but I believe in God, right? That's possible, right?
Mhm.
Whatever you want to call it, universe. I'm not religious, so I don't want to take it there, but I do believe that there is something greater than myself,
Mhm.
and I believe that I believe that we're all given something, right? And I've been just given this faith, um, and this ability to have hope, no matter how dire the situation is.
Mm.
And I always have phases where sometimes I fall into a negative hole. Right now, for instance, I'm also going through some business stuff right now, where I have to like redirect, and I believe we all have these phases in our life where sometimes we get sucked into this negative hole. So it's actually quite interesting that you were asking me this question right now, because I'm currently in one of these holes. But the key is to take responsibility. You got to take responsibility, right? Um,
Mhm.
so, and this is also something that I learned before my accident, right? Have you heard about the locus of control? Have you heard of this?
I actually have, yes.
Okay, so for the people who don't know,
Mhm.
who are watching or who might be watching this in the future, so there's this thing called the locus of control, right? And you can either have an internal locus of control or an external locus of control. Let me give you an example. Internal locus of control, you have an exam, right? You fail the exam, right? A person with an external locus of control will say, it's because the exam questions were unfair, and the exam was way too hard. The teacher didn't, or the professor added some stuff that wasn't part of the curriculum. Blah blah. Just trying to blame the test. Versus an internal locus of control person would say, I failed the test because I didn't study hard enough. If I would have studied harder, I would have passed that test. Because it wasn't that difficult, it's on me that I failed this test. Likewise, if you would have passed the test, it would say, yeah, it was an easy test. That's why I passed. Internal locus of control would say, I studied, I gave it my all, and I passed this test. Right? That's the locus of control. People who have an internal locus of control have a belief that they are capable of forging the forging a path in their life, versus external locus of control have the belief that the path has been forged and they are walking on a path that somebody else has laid for them. Right? And so I was exposed to this concept pretty early. I don't even remember when I learned about it the first time, but I believe that I have an internal locus of control. I believe that I am responsible for the results that I get in my life. Right? That doesn't mean that life happens. Like, accidents happen, obviously. I mean, look at me, right? It happens. Shit happens. People always believe this shit doesn't happen until it either happens to themselves, or they're missing somebody that was taken from something like this.
Mm-hmm.
But this life happens, right? And you need to decide: do I have an internal locus of control? Do I believe that everything is externally given to me, or am I responsible for choosing my path and forging my path? And that's the very first question that you need to answer. And now I'm closing the loop to having the positive outlook, because if you believe that you have an internal locus of control, that you can do something about it, if you're convinced about that, then it's not far-fetched to say, okay, law of attraction, this type of stuff. If I have a positive vision for my life, if I set positive goals for myself, if I believe in my ability to think of something in my mind's eye and make it a reality, and then you can do anything you want. You can do anything you want. And even if life throws you a curveball, you can you're still gonna get up. You're still gonna you're not gonna sit back down. You're gonna take a swing. You're gonna take a swing again and again and again, because as long as you're still breathing, as long as your mind is still working, you just got to keep swinging. You're not just gonna stop swinging if you have this internal locus of control. So
I love
that's
that.
yeah, yeah.
No, because I'm thinking
Go for it.
about my thought process is always about how to help people, for example, that have an external locus of control, what practice or get to having an internal locus of control, because these are this is the thing that this is what I do. This is what
Mhm.
I look at. So it's very interesting for me. I very much like the terminology. I think that it is very accurate. I think it is really, really good. I have learned locus of control in my degree, but I actually didn't remember a lot of that. So thank you for going through that again. That's really, really, I think, very useful, you know, mindset and tool and skill to have. And I think
Life
that it
saving.
does, it really, really does. I just think, how important these kind of things are to teach in schools, for example, because
Oh
it
yeah,
got you through the curveballs, right? And
yeah.
that I think that a lot of people that aren't getting through their curveballs are the ones that haven't learned these they don't have these skills, they don't have these tools, they have the external locus of control, they're very much reactive to situations, they're very much believing that things are happening to them. I think that you have actually picked, like, you've got some very, very rare and incredible tools there in your toolbox. And I think that they were very, very good ones and crucial ones to share. So I really thank you for that. Um,
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank God you had them. So, like, thank you. Did you thank your mentor for the book?
Yeah, I think I funny story. Like he didn't even remember that he gave that to me.
No way.
Yeah, yeah. It was
Wow.
I talked to him like I don't know, like a couple of I talked to him last year sometimes after I haven't talked to him for like ages. And I was like I was telling him like because he was also going through something, and I was like, remember the book you gave me? Like, you should read that, you know? And he's like, what book? I was like, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey. He's like, you gave that to me. He was like, oh yeah, I gave that to you. I was like, yeah. And so that funny enough, he didn't even
Amazing.
remember. But yeah, I mean, there's still like the whole like personally, I believe that there's so much out there that people can like, and everybody's free to choose what they want, because not everybody has a connection to everything. But at the same time, I'm a very pragmatic guy, you know. So I don't like to get too like I said, I do believe, like, I am kind of spiritual, but I don't get too spiritual, because I do believe that to get through everyday life, you need some practical tools. And so the the ability to choose, right? So internal locus of control, that's number one. You have to believe that, right? If you don't believe, if you're not convinced that you have that you can do something about it, then you're going to have a hard time with anything. So, so you got to believe that you have an internal locus of control, because you do ultimately. If you decide, if you know about this concept, then then uh, then I would feel kind of bad choosing to say, okay, I have an external locus of control, because that means I'm giving responsibility for everything away. And I've learned that only if you take 100% responsibility for the good and bad, that you can actually manifest something good in your life.
Love that.
So that's number one. Then I believe in the power of values, because I think people underestimate the power of words and the power of really intrinsic values that help you, that help you become who you are, or be who you are, right? So for me, it was basically this back here. What I drew. I'm standing on top of a value pyramid, right? And the experiences that I make are also with other people are also filtered through a value funnel, right? So I'm standing personally. I'm just saying for me right now, right? I'm standing on top of a pyramid of love, respect, honor, friendship, and family. When I live these values, I'm a happy guy who has experiences that are funneled for me through a filter of openness, respect, courage, commitment, and focus. And then I have giving and receiving values because God gave you two hands, one to give, one to receive. And those change, those change depending on what I need. And those change depending on how my skills have developed, because giving is really what productive value can you give other people. So that changes, and I don't always want the same things. So what I need to receive to be happy or make myself happy is also sometimes changes. So that's why it's so helpful to take a daily inventory of your values, right? Personal, experiential, giving and receiving, right?
Mm.
And that's for me, like this plus those, yeah, the internal locus of control and taking 100% responsibility. That's all. That's what I need. That's what, and being by myself sometimes. Like I need to go. I need to be by myself. I'm not a lonely person, but I like to be alone because I found that the answers that you're looking for, you find them inside. You don't. You can never find them outside. Like every a good, like another good book that people, and this is such a famous book, but a lot of people already know it. But for me, it's also helped is The Alchemist.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've read
Read
that
it.
book.
No.
Never. Paulo Coelho. I think he's Brazilian by nationality, but it doesn't matter. He's written a bunch of amazing books. But my favorite book by him is The Alchemist. So I highly recommend you read that. So I'm not going to give too much away, but it's really about some you know sometimes you have to come home to find out who you really are,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's everything you're looking for is inside already because it's been given to you at birth already, you know, uh, and and you choose your character. We're all writing our legacy. We're all writing a story, right? And your character, right? Your character is determined by the decisions you make. So I make value-based decisions, and I try to just live my truth, and I try to do. I'm a servant leader also by vocation. Scrum Master is a servant leader, and like in my, I try to do everything for my team that they can succeed, but you also need to practice servant leadership of your life, right? So you need to serve yourself. You need to do good things for yourself, right? And that's what I believe in. Live your truth, make value-based decisions, and do do good things for yourself.
You
You know,
would be surprised how many people don't even know their values. I didn't, and it's and you
I've
part
asked a
of
lot of people.
yeah, it's like, what are your values? And they're like, hold on. And then I had to, it was part of my studies as well, my master's, and we Googled it, a list of values. But we used Shine's model. I think it was Shine, it's called. But
Okay. To be honest,
there's
you know more about this than I do. I don't know a lot of this.
but I think that so many people don't know what their values are and don't know what their truth is and live lives that are unaligned. We all have these values, but we're not conscious of them or aware of them. We haven't really met ourselves in a way because we're too busy trying to please other people or be what other people want us to be or what we think we should be. And you get caught up in that, but that's a whole other that's a whole other discussion. But I love that. I love your
Framework.
you know mindset and how you live your life. I think it's awesome, 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 awesome. And unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap up because I have another call. But I want to thank you very, very, very much for your time and for sharing your journey and your story with us. And please send me any relevant links that I can put in to the description. And it's been a pleasure, Simon. Thank you, thank you,
My
thank you,
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
thank you, Simon.
All right, cool. Thank you. Maybe see you again.
Yeah.